Welcome back to the Athletes Podcast, the show that features high-performing, high-achieving athletes, coaches, nutritionists, here to educate, entertain, and provide value for parents, coaches, veterans, rookies, bench players, role players, whoever wants to learn. This is the Athletes Podcast. This is episode 68 with Monica Aksamit, an Olympic bronze medalist in 2016, and an amazing episode. I hope you enjoy. So what's going on? How's your Tuesday going? Are you drinking your coffee? I know you're a coffee drinker.
Yep.
Yeah, crushing it. Black?
No. It's I drink it with matcha, collagen, and almond milk.
Oh wow. Okay, what are the health benefits of those three ingredients adding it to coffee?
Matcha helps with something. I don't know what. I just like the taste. That's why I pick it. But collagen, you can put it in water or you can put it in coffee, but it's good for your joints, for your skin, your nails.
Yeah, I crush collagen twice a day, 3 tablets. I love it. It's the best thing in the world.
Yeah, I just put it in my coffee because you can't even taste it, so might as
Right.
well.
Well, I first of all I want to say thank you for coming on the Athletes Podcast. Super pumped to have you on. I found you on Clubhouse, and this is like such a cool app. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on it so far?
So far I'm loving it. In the beginning, it was a love and hate because I feel like there's certain rooms that are just a dick measuring contest, basically, where everyone's like, "Oh, I make six figures and $7 million, and I did this deal and that deal, and I know all these people, and you're not coming up to speak because you're not rich." And you're like, "Okay, cool, sounds good." You sound like a shitty person. And then there's other rooms that, I mean, I like the smaller rooms for the most part, or every evening I'm in a influencers for mental health room.
Hmm.
And that's by far my favorite room. Everyone gets so like open and vulnerable. And I don't think it's even been a week and I've been in every single room. And I feel like these people are legitimately my friends. Like I feel like I can message them at any point in time, be like, hey, like I'm going through something. Can you talk to me? So I mean, pluses and negatives, as long as you know how to use it, I think it's a really great thing. Again, I found, so many incredible people that I've connected with. This is my second podcast that I've been on from Clubhouse, so that's also really cool.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I love the platform. It's interesting and it's unique because it's just people talking and having conversations, like you said, being able to have genuine relationships with people, and you're now friends with all of them, right? Are you a
Yeah.
are you a big mental health advocate? I'm curious what spurred you into join that group.
Um, I wouldn't say like on a regular basis that I have been. It's always been a taboo subject where people are like, "Oh no, I'm like perfect. I don't have mental health issues." But I dealt with depression in I think 2015,
Mhm.
where training for the Olympics. I don't know if you're aware, but you get paid $300 a month from the USOC. Finding sponsorships isn't that easy because everyone just wants to be sponsoring all the big athletes, or if you're a smaller athlete you'll get like a small little deal of like shut up, be happy. But so I was coaching, fencing, training, and refereeing, so that's all I was doing. I wasn't hanging out with friends because I didn't even have money for that, because I was just anything that I was earning I was spending to in order to be able to compete. So I ended up becoming depressed, and I never dealt with it before. Of course, like when I was a teenager and I was moody, it would be like one of those things of like, what if I jump in front of a car? But like that's normal shit, moody all the time. But this was like I just was irritable. I didn't want to hang out with anybody. Like I cried all the time, and I actually would have we're huge wine drinkers in my house. So if there's like a bottle of wine downstairs, my mom will drink it, not as in like chug it, but like she'd be like, "Oh, can I have a glass of wine?" So I would have a bottle of wine in my backpack in my closet. So every day I came home from practice, I could pour myself a glass, and it was every single day. And I didn't. It just didn't make it's. I didn't get that it was a problem.
Hmm.
And my mom was kind of the one that she like came into my room one day and asked me a question, and I just started crying hysterically. And she's like, are you okay? Like this, you haven't been yourself for I don't know however long it was. And she's like, is there something wrong with you? Like, do you need help? And that's kind of when I was like, there's something wrong with me.
Hmm.
So I mean, at that point, that was like my first time that I dealt with it. I also dealt with it during the pandemic. Granted, I think like 9 out of 10 people dealt with it at that point. So I've been pushing it on my Instagram of just being positive on mental health, of like, like if you need to talk to somebody, talk to them. If you need to reach out to me, I'll like, my DMs are open for you. So like I said, I think it's always been a taboo subject, and I don't think it should be, because everybody deals with it to a certain degree. And the more normal we make it, the easier it will be for people to find help.
Definitely. Yeah, I think it's such an important topic for people. And it's amazing that you, as a public figure, as an athlete, are doing that and allowing people to essentially slide into your DMs and talk about and have those
Yeah,
conversations. It's important.
yeah.
An interesting note, I was listening to a couple episodes doing some research, and you had that episode with Joey Sosa talking about what's in your DMs. And initially, right off the hop, you said one of the things you have to do is you vet if someone slides into your DMs, you got to go do your research, find out who they are. So I'm curious, what was your initial thoughts when I slid into yours to ask if you wanted to come on the Athletes podcast?
Hold on, I have to look.
Oh God.
I have
Okay.
to remember. I get a lot of DMs, so I have to look to remember.
A little
I'm
humble
seeing.
brag there. No big deal.
I don't know if it's a brag. I mean, I don't think anybody wants to be getting tiny penises in their DMs.
Yeah, micro penises was a topic that you said is frequent in your DMs.
I've gotten 2 in this year already.
2021 off to a small start.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, I didn't think anything of it. I saw you on Clubhouse. I mean, you have followers. You seem like a normal person, so I didn't think anything of it.
Perfect. Hey, that's good. That's like I'm cool with that. It's a happy medium,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So let's dive into your fencing. You start fencing at 9 years old. What kind of got you into that? I know your mom tried to get you into gymnastics. You were kind of too tall already to join that group. What sort of spurred that, and what made that become your passion to now being a bronze medalist in the Olympic Games?
So it wasn't actually even my decision to go to practice. My mom kind of was the one that brought me in. So my first fencing coach was a client at her bank. We're Polish, so she was working at a Polish Slavic bank. I was going to Polish school, and he talked about it all the time of, all these kids are love this. It's a great scholarship opportunity. And my mom, as a single mom, and like it's always been super important in my family to be going to college and to be educated and all that stuff. So mom was like, "Oh my God, scholarship opportunity! I'm in. Sign me in." So, and it was like basically I would be going after Polish school into practice. So it was just kind of like another way for my mom to not, I mean, kind of have a babysitter basically, and I'm still doing something for my future. So
Mm-hmm.
my mom was on board. She brought me in. I mean, I was 8 or 9 years old, whatever it was. And I mean, who doesn't want to hit other kids and it be okay? So they handed me a sword. They said, hit the other kid. I was confused, but I said, okay, sounds good. And I hit them. Everybody clapped and said, do it again. I was sold.
And now you end up winning Pan Am Games. You win a gold medal in 2019 in Lima. Like, just an incredible story. I'm curious, from that transition, 9 years old, a scholarship being a dream for your mom, to then you end up at Penn State. What's that like? Like, how do you go through that transition, going through high school, and then you get to that point and you're now a legitimate athlete playing at NCAA, winning 2 national titles? How did that feel? What was that? What were the emotions going through those 4 years?
I mean, stress. Obviously, I mean, I was training, I was traveling the world, I was in school, I was in honors classes and AP classes. I mean, the rule always in the house was if I'm not getting good grades, I'm not going to practice. So I think that's the only reason I had straight A's basically. I
Mm.
think I remember I had one B once. My mom was like, I don't know about this. I was like, just let it slide. I mean, it was a lot. It was definitely a lot, but I loved it. It never was, I didn't really, there was no like, oh, should I hang out with my friends or should I go to practice? Practice was always my love, my passion. And I've always been pretty ambitious. So it was kind of like, okay, well, I want to train, I want to be good. So I'm going to train to be good. There's no question here. So I didn't really have a lot of friends in high school. I mean, to the point, like, I still talk to maybe like 4 people in total from high school, and they like will name somebody's name. I'm like, I have no idea who that is. No idea. My senior year of high school, I actually almost didn't graduate because I missed 60 something days of school. They knew ahead of time, which is
Right.
like why I was confused about the letter. Like we came in. I mean, every year kind of was more because my senior year of high school, I was in the junior circuit and the senior circuit, to a point like if I was sick and I had a fever, I still had to go to school because it was just so many days. I remember like it was in my like US history class and I was just sitting against the wall like half unconscious because I have a fever, and the teacher's like, you need to go home. And I was like, I can't leave. I have no choice but to be here. So that was miserable. But yeah, I mean, I had to always bring in a letter to school before I competed, a letter afterwards after I competed. I mean, I was scanning books in school to, like, instead of carrying all whatever 6, 7 textbooks, whatever I had, I would have pieces of paper. I was taking tests on a regular basis before school started because I was missing them. So, I mean, I don't know. It sounds like a lot when I'm talking about it, but at the time it didn't seem like anything. It was just kind of like, okay, well, this is what I'm doing.
Well, especially when you didn't believe in rest days.
Yeah, yeah. So that didn't, it didn't matter. It was okay. I was going to practice. I was doing schoolwork. I was barely sleeping, but I made it
And then,
somehow.
yeah, so you end up representing the United States of America on a global stage in 2016 at the Olympics. But one of the interesting notes that I listened to when you were talking on your podcast is the fact that you were crushing McDonald's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. How the heck do you stay fueled up on Big Macs at the peak performance?
So I did that after we competed. I didn't do that before we competed. Before I competed, it's so funny. That's like what everyone brings up. So the food wasn't labeled in the beginning, and in general, it was a mess. Like the food in these, like, I don't know. I mean, I only went to Rio and I went to Lima. Like, it's the shittiest food ever. Because I mean, they're like mass producing it for all of these people. So like, how can you put in quality food? Like I remember in Lima, we were talking, I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna be eating for the next few days. Like the pizza was disgusting. But I get it, because again, you're mass producing all this food for so many athletes. So it's just hard to be doing all of that. And you also have to be satisfying so many different tastes, right? Like not everybody likes spicy, which I have a funny story about that. I probably heard it on that one of the episodes, but
not the listeners haven't yet, so you got to dive into that too.
So I ate breakfast there in the village twice, and I was just sick to my stomach. I couldn't even practice because I felt nauseous the entire time. And at that point, I was like, okay, well, I mean, there's no way I can be training and eating this stuff, so I have to do something. So I would go, we luckily had a few training centers, and we brought over some of the cooks from the USOC. So I'd always go over to breakfast. I mean, it was like right before practice anyway. So I'd just go over early and eat breakfast over there, eat lunch over there, and then bring back a sandwich. So that's kind of how I ate before we competed. And then after we competed, I mean, I didn't need to be taking like a 20-minute bus to go eat over there. So it was kind of like, okay, well, I guess I'm eating McDonald's. So we would go over in the morning, or I would go over in the morning before there was a huge line, because there was always a massive line. So I'd go in the morning and I would get a whole platter for the day.
Just fueled up peak performance. Hey, I love it.
I mean, like I said, thankfully it was afterwards. So it was fueling me for running around and cheering on other athletes. So that was all that I needed, I guess.
So I'm curious what the games are like. We had a couple other Canadian Olympians on previously. And in your podcast, you talk about going and being able to watch the U.S. Olympic team, watch Paul George play, who you've had on your podcast. What's that camaraderie like within athletes within the Olympic Village? I'm curious.
I mean, it depends. Like, obviously, you can't put everybody in the same category, but it seemed like almost everybody that I talked to and ran up to, like, I felt like I was a kid in a candy store, and like all these people around me were just like, I couldn't get enough of it. And I would pretty much talk to every single person. And it seemed like most people were down to be, meeting, and you're excited because at the same time, it's like this bond, like it's an average person isn't going to understand all the sacrifice and all the decisions. There's so many factors that come into becoming an Olympian. I mean, I don't think every single person has it in them, because I think it takes a certain level of crazy to be getting there. I mean, again, like I wasn't even hanging out with friends. That wasn't my priority. I didn't care. Something's a little off in there. Let's be real about it. So I think everybody just understands. So it's just like this unspoken bond immediately. And I mean, I became friends with so many Olympians. And again, it was just like effortless. Like I came up, I don't really watch sports for the most part. If anything, it's like sports where I know people play, because I just much rather play the sport than watching it. If anything, it's been like soccer or tennis. But so I had no idea who Paul was. I've heard his name before, but my friend was like, "Oh my God, that's Paul George." I was like, "Oh, I've heard that name." Like, cool, okay. And then he was like, "Well, let's go take photos." I was like, "Okay, sure, whatever. I'll take photos with whoever the hell." Like, all right. And then we went up and it was Paul and DeAndre Jordan that were walking together, I think, or they were right next to each other. So we took photos and we just all started talking, and it just became like, it was like we were friends for forever. It was really funny. So that's kind of how it happened.
It's amazing. It's just cool to know that, once you get to that, epitome of sport, they're all still real human beings, right? That's what I've learned over the past 67 episodes chatting with you. Like you're just another human being at the end of the day, despite what you say and the fact that you claim that no one knows you, yet you have 100,000 Instagram followers. I think you're a little humble in that regard.
But that doesn't mean anything. I mean, I think my followers do know me I can't even say pretty well. They know me because I try to be as real and genuine and whatever as I can be, because I hate the amount of lies that happen on social media. And I've seen it we had a tournament last year pre-pandemic and I won the tournament, and the girl that got second posted basically a photo as if she won, instead of being like, oh, I got second, like, whatever, almost there, blah, blah, blah. Like I read, somebody showed me her caption. They're like, I thought you won the competition. And I read, and I was like, this is so stupid. And it's just constant of like, so many people are miserable, or I mean, even celebrities were caught taking a photo on a private plane, but actually sitting in like economy.
No,
or like
not
sitting down
Dan
taking a photo. Like, or sitting like in business class taking a photo and then going to their seat in economy. Like it's just stupid. And I think that also has dealt with or caused mental health, because people look and they're like, all these people are living these incredible lives, and here I am working my basic ass 9 to 5, whatever, barely making ends meet. A lot of people that are influencers barely make ends meet because they're spending their money to look glamorous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really a shame that social media has led to that almost basically an alter ego lifestyle that people live to be able to showcase it on the internet. It's like a highlight reel at the end of the day, right? Like people don't show the lowlights necessarily. One of the future people I'm talking on the podcast, he talks about the fact that like showing the lowlights is actually important, because then again, going back to, it makes you human, right?
Yeah,
it's important.
yeah.
I'm curious. I want to talk about your injury from your back. We had Liz Gleedle on the podcast. She was episode number 62, 63. She went into the 2016 Olympics with a significant injury, similar situation to what you had going in. You had a significant back injury where you actually had a broken back. Can you dive into what that was like, the recovery process, how mentally draining that was?
Yeah. First of all, I love Liz. She's one of my favorite people.
No way.
Yeah.
She is amazing.
Yeah, and she's like a giant, which I thought I was tall, and she showed up and was like, "Oh my god, we're definitely best friends from here on out." Injury wise, I mean, it was just such a crazy time in general where I don't think I really let myself understand what was happening. So it wasn't like a moment where it happened. It was just from overtraining. I mean, not resting, because only weak people take days off, right? So I overtrained. I ended up fracturing my vertebrae, and I just kept having this really annoying pain. And we went to a World Cup, and our doctor is a chiropractor by trade, or like whatever is licensed in chiropractic, whatever things. And he went to crack my back, and he got my SI joint, which like normally we can't do. And as fencers, like that's kind of one of our issue areas. And I was like, oh my God, I feel amazing. And that same practice, I basically couldn't move at the end of it. Because it just like, I guess my body was just so stiff from all that, and it finally released, and it allowed me to like finally feel everything. So I went back and I had an MRI, and again, it's like they have to really think about what they're saying to you, because you're an athlete, and it was like pre-Olympics anyway. So it's like we're in such a fragile state of mind where I could have basically had like a nervous breakdown. I mean, that wouldn't even be surprising. So when they told me, they're like, oh, you have like a pars fracture. And I was like, I understand the word fracture, but what on earth is a pars? And like, they really didn't explain anything to me. They're like, oh, you just need like 6 to 8 weeks off. And I was like, well, we already know that's not happening. But I was like, yeah, 6 to 8 weeks off. May 31st, the Olympics are coming up. Definitely. Sounds good. And I remember I called our doctor, who I'm really good friends with. And I was like, hey, so like, what's going on? He's like, oh, you have a pars fracture. It's not a big deal. I was like, what? it has the word fracture. What are you talking about? And he said 6 to 8 weeks off. And he's like, no, no, no. They're prescribing you steroids to like keep down the inflammation. Like we're gonna get them. We have to submit them. It's gonna be fine. Like we'll get you a little bit of painkillers. You have your back brace. It'll be fine. I was like, I don't understand. Like I'm confused. This is not a big deal to anybody else, but it's a fracture. They made it sound bad. So like I Googled it and I was like, okay, it sounds like my back is broken from what I get. But I think that again really helped me because it never really, it just kind of was like a joke in a way to me. I was in massive amounts of pain. I was crying at practice, but it just, I guess like saying it to people like, I think my back's broken. I think that kind of helped. Then it never made me just fully understand what was going on. So, I mean, it sucked. Like I said, I would cry hysterically at practice. I had to wear a back brace, which is it was just constant pain instead of like sharp shooting pain because I couldn't change direction really quickly, which, fun fact, that's actually my sport where we have to change direction really quickly. It's all fast, abrupt movement. So it sucked because I wanted to be training. I wanted to be as prepared as possible, but I couldn't. So many, like I'd be crying in practice. Everybody would be like, stop, go home. And I was like, I can't. Like I need to be training and I can't do this. I can't take the break that I need to fix this because I just don't even have that time. So it was just kind of like, okay, well, the situation is what it is. Like, haha, if I broke my back, we got to deal with it. But to be honest, the day of the Olympics, I felt nothing. My rib popped out, I guess, from all the stress as well. It was funny looking at it now, but my rib popped out, so I couldn't. I think it was here in the front. I couldn't like turn my head all the way, and like we couldn't get it to pop back in the entire day. But I didn't. While we were competing, I felt absolutely nothing.
Yeah, you just had that adrenaline running, and it was just an afterthought at that point.
Yeah, I could have like shattered my leg, Paul George style, and I don't think I would have noticed.
I feel like that might have affected your performance slightly, but we'll go with it. Maybe. There you go. I can sense the fact that you're able to overcome things quickly. Just based on what you've been able to do, overcoming injuries. One of the things you mentioned is the fact that you have an insane fear of heights, yet you decided to go bungee jumping. Can you explain the thought process behind that?
I try to understand my thought process myself. So we were in California. My friend had like, you had to hike like 5 miles into this thing, like in this water reservoir, into the thing that's called Bridge to Nowhere. It used to have a whole bunch of water underneath it, but California and droughts. So she was going to go like the following weekend and I was already going to be gone. And I was like, that sounds awesome. And I remember being younger, seeing a bridge somewhere in Europe. And I remember calling my uncle who was in Poland. I was like, hey, can I jump off this bridge? And he's like, absolutely not. Your mother would murder me. What are you doing? And I remember always thinking about that. And I was like, that would have been really cool to jump off this bridge, but they would never let me. So like, okay, like this is probably a cool time to do it. Why not? And I actually had just broken up with somebody. So just kind of like, fuck it, let's live life. Let's do this. Why not? And then I got there and I was like the second, I think I was the third person to jump because we had 2 rows. Someone jumped before me and then somebody else. Had I gone anywhere else in the line, I would have never jumped ever in my life. But the guy, like, I guess kind of saw me starting to panic. And he just like started having this conversation with me and like people around me started talking to me. So I didn't really have time to just like actually really think about it. And then again, I'm like going up to jump and he's like, no eye contact, like stare at me here. He's like, do not look down, whatever you do. And he's like, you're jumping towards this X, cool, whatever. And then he's like, whatever, like 3, 2, 1. And then you're jumping. But it's funny too. I can't find the video. It's somewhere. I have to find it. It's one of the funniest videos I think I've ever been a part of. So you're like, as you're going to go push off, like you should be extending your legs. But I ended up like mid jump. I looked down because you're jumping to your death essentially. How are you not going to look? So my leg never fully finished pushing off and I fell in like seating position.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like that's how paralyzed I was basically. And then there's a certain point in the video where they're like, relax, like, cause you go down once, you come back up, you go down again, and then again a third time. So then you just hear them scream like, relax. And then all of a sudden my body just like goes limp. But Yeah, I don't know how I did it. I will never do it again, but I'm glad I got that over.
Yeah, I'm impressed, to say the least. Clearly, you've got an innate ability to do that kind of stuff. Let's dive into your Disney fandom. 101 Dalmatians, Little Mermaid. You've named your dog after Pongo. There we go. That was what it was. Tell me a bit about that. Is that just from watching it as a kid growing up?
Yeah, so actually my mom's dog's name is Nala. She's also a Dalmatian. And then I adopted a dog in Peru after Pan American Games, and his name was going to be Balto, but they ended up talking me out of it, and his name's Otto. So definitely Disney. They were always my favorite movies as a kid. I'm a huge animal lover. So I mean, I much rather watch 101 Dalmatians over like Cinderella or Lion King over Beauty and the Beast. I mean, yeah, I've always loved them. I cried in almost all of them. I think I own every single one, except I don't have Fox and the Hound, and I don't have Bambi because I just cried so hard. So I was like, no, we don't need these.
And you actually ended up breaking your VCR of The Little Mermaid because you watched it so many times?
Yeah, I broke the tape.
That's impressive. So now I need to get your opinion on this, because Disney is remaking The Little Mermaid, and it's rumored that Harry Styles is going to be Prince Eric. Given the fact that you decided that your Halloween costume was going to be Princess Ariel, what are your thoughts on Harry Styles being Prince Eric? Does he fit? Is there someone better? And yeah, go.
I guess Harry Styles isn't that bad of a choice for it, but I wouldn't ever say that he looks like Prince Eric.
Who would you put in place?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of actors that would fit.
My friend comes to mind, just because of his stature and given the, mermaid effect. He's played Aquaman.
Maybe. But like the hair doesn't match.
It's true.
I mean, it's a good one.
Yeah, maybe we'll circle back to that. It's going to be in the back of your head. Don't worry.
Yeah, let's circle back.
There you go. Warming up now. Do you actually do it, or do you still just disregard it completely? Because that's something that you mentioned. You in your 20s, you just didn't even bother doing it. I'm curious. Can you elaborate on why you didn't, and maybe now as you've learned? And we have a younger group of listeners, and I really want athletes to understand the importance of that. And I think you're probably someone who could speak to it.
Yeah. I think when you're younger, you think you're invincible, and you're like these old people, because that's who's telling you. Your coaches are old. You're in comparison to you. The athletes you look up to are also old. They're like, you don't know. Shut up. You're just old. That's why you're warming up. I don't need to. And I mean, I didn't have pain. I would like jump into practice, whatever, like jog around back and forth and be like, all right, I'm ready. And my coach was like, no, actually warm up. And I was like, I'm fine. Like, relax. I'm fine. So it just didn't make sense to me that I really needed it. Now you just spoke about warming up and not warming up. My body already started to hurt because of just all the traumatic stress from not doing it for so many years. No, I mean, it's super important. It definitely makes a difference. Cool downs make a difference. Again, all this stuff seemed stupid to me until I started doing it. I was like, oh, this is why everybody says to do it. So if I could go back, I would warm up in every single practice. I would arrive early at every practice, warm up, cool down, stretch afterwards, because I learned it makes a huge difference.
Do you do any specific techniques as far as recovery, preparation? Are you sauna? Are you ice baths? Are you doing anything in particular that you've added to your routine that's helped?
I definitely do not do ice baths. I avoid them like the plague. I hate them. They're the worst. But
team, we're going into Lake Ontario next week and doing a 1.5-minute polar plunge Wim Hof.
I was gonna say you Canadians love that, but I didn't want to assume. But I could have, I guess, clearly. No, absolutely not. I hate the cold. Not for me. What do I do? I mean, we don't really have a sauna at practice for me to be doing that. We don't really have a hot tub. If I could, like when we're at the Olympic Training Center, that's what I would do after every practice. I would go into the hot tub because it just helps relax your muscles. I mean, aside from that, no. I mean, I do the regular warming up. I stretch. I mean, there's different things that I have to do, like obviously for my back to keep my body from aggravating that. So I make sure the right muscles are stretched and warmed up. I have some exercises that I have to do specific to my sport. And then afterwards, I'll jog a little bit and stretch.
Gotcha. I like it. Okay, good to know. See, it's always interesting because some athletes come on and they have a huge elaborate system that they go through pre, post, during their workout, and I'm like, holy Dinah, how do you even remember to do all that stuff?
Right, same.
It's nice to hear that you don't have to, reinvent the wheel. You can just go with the basics, and it'll take you to obviously the Olympic stage. Clearly, I'm so curious. Where are you going traveling when this pandemic ends? Because I know you're an avid traveler.
God. I hate this question because I started thinking about it and I'm like, why am I stuck? I can't do anything. Yeah, I have 35 countries that I've been to. I actually was able to travel pre-pandemic. During pandemic, I was actually, or for the beginning of it, I was stuck in Europe because they closed all the borders. But in September, I went to California for my sister's 18th birthday. I had a work trip to Mexico, and then I went again another work trip to Haiti, which thankfully Haiti was country number 35, so at least I had something new. Right. Where am I going? I really want to do Portugal. I really want to do Australia. As everybody, I want to do Thailand, Vietnam, and Iceland. I would say those are my top few countries. Places.
Nice, interesting. Yeah, Australia's on the list, and it's beautiful. It's like just such a tropical climate that allows for, and I feel like everyone's nice there too. Is that just a misconception? Maybe
I love every Australian person that I meet on social media, not on social media. There's actually a guy, I don't remember where but he slid into my DMs. It was something funny. Like this was like a while ago. Like we've gone to get coffee when he was in New York, but he slid into my DMs with something funny. And again, we've become friends. Like yesterday he was wearing Dalmatian socks and he sent me a photo. But yeah, every Australian person I've met, I've always liked. So it sounds like there's just something over there.
So is that similar to what it's like in the Olympic Village? Were there any countries that you didn't get along with or did tremendously?
I didn't really meet many Australians. No, I almost got along with every athlete I spoke to be honest.
What were the parties like? Because you touched on it briefly, but I'm curious from a muggle, as you would call the non-athletes.
I didn't really go to that many of them. I'm not a huge party person, and I'm also I'm a little bit shy. So even meeting people, I didn't know enough people to be inviting me to places. The one crazy party that I talked about in my Olympic Village episode, there was little people dancing on the stage, and there were fireworks, and we were in the middle of nowhere in our van pulled up and we came out. We're like, this is dangerous. We need to get back inside the car and we need to go home. And then we saw athletes coming out. We're like, oh no, okay. It sounds like this is a party. But yeah, it was this outdoor tentish thing. And then there was a bar, but I don't remember if they were making drinks or if it was just a jungle juice situation. But I just remember talking to someone, and then all of a sudden little people came out in trench coats and started dancing, and then there were fireworks. That was the craziest party. I thought for the longest time that I was roofied until I talked to my friend on the episode, and then I was like, okay, no, this actually happened. At least, if anything, both of us were roofied.
How much fun do you have just being able to meet these people and then build on those relationships? Because I feel like now obviously you've shown it in your On the Fence podcast, but you just have these amazing conversations with these incredible individuals. Is it just a blast being able to do this all the time?
Yeah, I think it's fun. You're getting to interact with people. I've always liked meeting people, even though again I come off a little bit shy initially, but there's so many different things that you can learn from other people, and the stories, and then having those relationships of had I gone to the Olympics and not spoken to anybody, I would have even if I had those experiences by myself, it would have never been the same. But again, being able to talk to Sam Dorman, who was on that episode, he reminded me of closing ceremonies where everybody is hammered. And I completely forgot about that. It was an entire party. They were brought up stage. We had costumes, and you were running around again alongside of performers, handing each other bottles of alcohol. It was just what universe am I in? But it's the Olympics, and again, you have these lifelong friendships from that.
Yeah, it brings up an interesting point. What are some of the misconceptions that you had prior to the Olympics and then going to them and feeling it out and actually living that, other than, being handed bottles of alcohol on stage?
I definitely never thought that would happen. I don't know if I really had any expectations going into it. I mean, I don't know, like same thing, even when people ask me, they're like, what are your expectations for performance? I was like, not choking. Honestly, that's what I hope, that I hope I can perform and be proud of myself. And we were like, oh, are you expecting a medal? And I was like, how can you expect anything? Like, it's the Olympics. Like, if it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, also great. You're still an Olympian. Like, that was my dream. So I don't really know that I had any ideas of it. And I mean, it was amazing from the beginning. The only thing, like, my teammate told me, she's like, all you need to pack are like sports bras and underwear and socks. I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, they give you everything else. And I was like, for like 2 weeks, I'm going to get enough clothes. And she's like, yes. Okay. And I mean, I kid you not, I think I had either a king or queen size bed during team processing, and it was just covered in clothes. So like from the beginning, it was just kind of like, all right, I don't know what I could be expecting at all from this point. So let's just take it day by day.
Yeah, I'd be cool with that. Some Olympic gear. It's not bad. Sounds pretty sweet.
Yeah, I took all of it.
So what's next for Monica Aksamit? What's 5 years, 10 years down the road? I'm curious. I always ask him. I want to know. You're owning it right now, wearing that T-shirt, and what's on the horizon for you?
See, the one thing is I don't really like to tell people what my plans are, because then if they fail, nobody knows but me. But just living a stable life. I mean, being an athlete, I feel like it's not a stable time, because one, you can get an injury at any point in time. So like you have to be aware of that. Competitions kind of go either direction. Financial situation also very unstable. So I mean, that's kind of like my biggest thing, that I just want to live a stable life. I'm sure I'll miss the craziness of all of this,
Mhm.
but I feel like living a basic muggle life won't be that bad. So that's kind of, I'm okay with that. I think I'm ready. In terms of what's next, I mean, it's really hard to say. It really depends on if the Olympics happen, because a lot of things could change in either direction. If the Olympics happen, I mean, that opens more doors, more opportunities. I could meet different people. I can say the one thing I've always kind of wanted to try is to get my try out acting. I feel like that would be I think that would be fun. And people tell me I do a good job in front of the camera, which I don't really know what that means, but I've heard it many times. So
You're going with it.
why not?
Yeah, exactly. It's I think, yeah, obviously you've got an ability to speak in front of the camera, so why not give it a go? And having an Olympic background and being able to, I'm sure you've got lots of connections within the industry now, so it's certainly something that I think you should go after. Do it. You mentioned the fact that if you were to describe yourself as one kind of fruit on your episode with Paul George, that you would be a cherry. Yet your favorite fruit to snack on is mango. Any particular reason for either of those decisions? Like cherry, such a unique, you said slightly tart, slightly sweet. I also have to tell you, you don't come off as shy. Just first of all, to get that out there, you mentioned it a couple times. You totally don't. So just like, I feel like you should remove that, especially if you're getting into acting.
I mean, no, but it's really true. I mean, I know, like, I can't be shy, because I mean, that's not why you invited me on here. You want me to talk about myself and whatever. And I get, again, like doing like my podcast, I know it's just, I get nervous every single time. I'm always like, I don't remember my intro anymore. Especially the bigger the person, the more, like, it's funny because I'm good friends with Paul, but I was like the most nervous for that episode. And my system failed at first. GarageBand shut down, my computer froze. It was a mess, but thank God he's my friend and it was easy to deal with. But no, in like new areas where I don't know a lot of people, I definitely get quiet. I definitely like prefer to observe. I'm not one to like run around, start talking to people.
Right.
But if I'm comfortable in a situation, I'm not shy. So I'm like an extroverted introvert. Is that what it's called? Or an extroverted introvert? No,
Yeah.
Whatever. One of them. So
This.
definitely initially I am shy, but I've learned that there's situations where there's no room for that and I can't. So that's fine. Wait, what are we talking about? We're talking about chai, we're talking about mangoes. I feel like I could also be a mango, but mangoes aren't really described as tart, I don't think. Like they're more like tangy. No?
Tangy, that's probably better description.
Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like cherry, I could be either one of them.
Okay, we'll go with
I think they're fairly similar.
Well, if it gives you any comfort, my palms are sweating, knees weak. No, I'm kidding. I know you're an Eminem fan, so I had to throw that in.
That's why I was like, is he making that joke, or am I just the one understanding that is just a joke?
100%. I don't mess around. Come on, I do my research. I gotta know these.
I used to be able to. I don't know if I mentioned that on the oh yeah, I did with Joey. Of like, I literally could rap the songs, and in Poland, this was like back when America, like, I mean, still in Poland, they look at America like this great place. But it was even more so when I was younger. So I remember I would fit into camps because I'd tell people, I mean, obviously I would tell people that I live in America, but they'd be like, do you know Britney Spears? And I was like, yeah, she was my babysitter. Or like, I live down the street from Michael Jackson. And everyone would believe that. And then I would go to camps with my cousin. And then like, I remember like all the boys would like sprint and be like, oh my God, like Michael said you're from America. And I was like, yeah, I am. Because I was like the way of it was like a guarantee that everybody would like me. But I remember being like, yeah, I could rap Eminem. And they're like, no, you can't. I would put on my Walkman and like just go through it. They're like, wow, America's so cool.
So if we were to pull up a clip with just the audio, would you be able to rap right now?
I'm not going to say it confidently because you just made me second guess myself, but there's a chance.
Okay. So is that a yes then?
No, we're not doing it. We're not doing it. We're not doing it.
I had to ask you, shoot your shot, right? Okay. So let's talk about why you chose Saber instead of foil versus, what's the epee? What's the choice behind it? We're going back to fencing. I know I go ask questions randomly here. Saber's so intense and like fast paced. I have a buddy who was on the junior national team for Canada. So I asked him a bunch of questions yesterday. Matson Lawler, appreciate his input. But what made you choose Saber?
You would definitely be a Saber fencer, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not even choosing. Like I don't fit in any of the other weapons.
Okay.
I remember people used to explain it to me and I didn't understand it because it just seemed like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? How do I fit into a weapon? But it's like, even watching kids, like when I was coaching, you can literally tell and put kids in the right weapon and they think they're having fun in like foil, and you put them in Saber, they're like, wow, this is a lot of fun. You're like, yeah, because you're like, what you're doing is not what you're supposed to be doing. But Saber is a lot more fast paced. It is a lot more aggressive. Therefore, it fits you a lot better than sitting around and doing like epee, where it's like a lot more patience. I don't see you doing that well.
Gotcha. Okay.
Or myself. The only reason I fit better into epee is because I'm taller and lankier. But I mean, there are tall saberists. But it kind of chose me, to be honest. The first fencing club that I was at, I think at the time it was entirely Saber. And then because the coach was also a coach at TCNJ, we had epeists show up here and there. And I remember he made me fence somebody and I was winning 3-0. And that took, for me, it seemed like that was an hour to get to 3-0. And I was like, this is stupid. Like, we're going too slow. And then I lost 15-3 because I started going faster. So I learned that's definitely not my weapon. And then I tried foil when I was a lot older. And I was like, no, Saber is definitely the one I prefer.
Gotcha. Okay, good to know. I love it. That's kind of all the questions I have for you. Do you have anything coming up, or do you want to mention your social media handles so people can follow you on Instagram, get that Insta following up so that you can get more sponsors and make more?
Yeah. Project wise it's just working on my podcast, to be honest. There's a collaboration that's supposed to be coming out with a company. I don't know when, but Pongo actually has basically his own line of clothing.
Nice.
But you can, yeah, I have a onesie with his face all over it. It's pretty cool.
Wow.
So, yeah, so you can either buy his stuff or you can put your own animal on their clothing line. But I don't know when that drops. So you can keep an eye out for that. But in terms of social media, it's just my first and last name. So Monica Aksamit on every platform. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. I'm starting I'm starting to post again on YouTube, so we'll see how long that goes for. And then you can check out my podcast, which is called On the Fence with Monica Aksamit. Actually, today's episode that dropped, 100% of the proceeds are going for children's cancer. We have an organization called Thon at Penn State. And then last week's episode is being donated to animal rescues.
It's amazing. I love that. That's incredible. We always wrap up by asking the athlete, coach, nutritionist, whoever we have on, what is your single one piece of advice that you would give to the next generation of athletes? Monica Aksamit, what is your piece of advice?
I don't know if this goes strictly for like for your sport, whatever, but I think regardless for anybody is you're always going to have people that don't like you and haters and naysayers, and that's okay because it's ultimately you going after this. It's what you believe in. And I've had so many people say no or say that that's impossible, and I still made it happen. So it's ultimately up to you. And I think if you have haters and naysayers, it means that you're doing something that terrifies them. And that's the only reason.
I love it. It's an amazing way to end it. Monica, thank you very much for coming on the Athletes Podcast. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. Just a great conversation. Monica's just a cool human being. Super grateful to have her on. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please subscribe. Hit that like button if you're feeling generous. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.